All right, when we look at rotational training, kind of the name almost throws us off right out of the gate where we go, okay, rotation, and most of us tend to think rotation of the shoulders, which really feeds into rotation of the spine, which more often than not feeds into rotation of the lumbar spine. And then we kind of wonder why we have such a high prevalence of low back issues. So when we start talking rotation, we're going to think about it as anti-rotation. So any movement that we're ever going to produce is going to come from the hip joints. Everything through the midsection, we need to stay rock solid stable the whole time. And that's really how those muscles are designed to function. So they're not supposed to be big time movers. They're supposed to prevent me from going backwards or rotating. So let's look at our rotational stuff. And I always take people through progressions. So you're always going to start with something that's pretty simple where all you're trying to do is hold your body still. And that might be something like the press out, where if I have the band or a cable and it's pulling sideways, as my hands go out, it's trying to pull me sideways, so I'm maintaining my position. That is creating rotational stability or anti-rotation strength. Now, when we do start getting into moving, the movement is going to come from the hip joints. So whether it's throwing a medicine ball or doing chops or something like that, we want to make sure that between the ribs and hips, we remain fixed. So we know that the ribs going away from the hips is extension. We know that the ribs going towards the hips is flexion. If we have the ribs turning without the hips turning, we now have rotation, and a lot of times it's going to be too much rotation from the lumbar spine. So I tend to think drive from the belly button. So if I'm doing something like a chop, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to turn my belly button, and then turn my belly button on the way down, and I'm staying fixed through the midsection. Same thing if it was a lift pattern. I'm starting here, so I'm going low, and then I'm transitioning up, moving through the hip joints, but staying connected ribs to hips. So it doesn't matter what kind of rotational exercise you're doing, keep that connection ribs to hips, drive the movement from your belly button, and think about stability at the trunk, movement at the hips. One, you're training the body more the way it's designed, and two, and probably more importantly, you're minimizing the amount of excessive rotation at the low back. That's typically what's going to lead to issues down the road. So from the standpoint of safety and function, stay connected ribs to hips, move through your hip joints.